I've been hiking the last few days, and this afternoon I went for a hike knowing that the weather was going to be atrocious. But I went on a hike. I saw that there was a road that went off to the left, about 500 meters down from the accommodation, and it looked like a dead end. On the map, it seemed to peter off, but I decided I'd go down as far as I could and see where it'd lead. Now, it led all the way up to the top of the mountain. It took a few hours to get up to the top. And the road was very muddy. It was like a river in parts with the water flowing down. But I was about 200 meters up when I came upon a few heifers and their calves. And I thought to myself, these are dumb animals. I'm dealing with livestock here. They're not going to step to the side and let me pass. If I walk towards them, they're going to gallop off in the other direction, which would be up the mountain. And it was so predictable. And as I continued walking towards them, they galloped off. And I thought to myself, this is going to be painful to watch. And it was. Every so often they'd stop thinking that I wasn't following them anymore, and then when I'd catch up with them, they'd gallop off again. And then they got tired. This went on for a few hundred meters up. So it went on for several kilometers. They would wait, I would come, they would gallop off, and then they got tired. And as they got tired, they kept looking back, and they would let me get closer to them before they'd gallop off. And I felt sorry for them because I knew that they didn't have the intelligence to just climb a little bit down off the road or climb a little bit up off the road. Maybe in their bovine brains, they saw me. My shape was similar to that of the farmer. They saw that I had a stick in my hand. And they probably thought that I was hurting them somewhere. Or maybe the calves were afraid, and maybe their fear made the heifers afraid. And therefore they just kept galloping up the mountain. And all this time I was thinking of all that kinetic energy being used up to move them up a mountain that could have been used to milk those calves. It seemed such a waste, but they were too dumb to get off the road. For them, they had to be on the road. They had to be on the road. And if that meant climbing up a mountain, so be it. They would climb up a mountain. At one stage, I even climbed up off the road and I tried to walk past them, but there was a lot of foliage and twigs, and when they heard the sound of something cracking, they got nervous and they continued running up the mountain. About 50 meters before the summit, there was a clearing. And the heifers and the calves, they went into a thicket and they didn't see the bend in the road. It was like a really sharp bend. And so I said, thank God that's come to an end, that sorry charade. And I got up to the summit. And as I was following these very silly cows, I was thinking about something that I noticed recently, and that is that there are people now who didn't believe the narrative of the scamdemic. Or maybe they were somewhat skeptical of the narrative of the scamdemic. And now, a few years on from that, they look back at the scamdemic and they believe it was a pandemic because it's now written in the history books. It's in the history books. It's the worst pandemic ever. Doesn't matter that it doesn't tie up with their memories of the scamdemic. No, it's on the record. It's a historical fact. Likewise, there were people during the scamdemic, high-brained individuals, but they were easily hypnotized by the power structure. Because once they were provided with graphs and tables and statistics, they thought it had to be true. You can pull data from any orifice. We know that. But these supposedly high IQ individuals can't understand, can't comprehend the idea of data being suspect, of data being corrupt, of data being used to pull the wool over people's eyes. So yeah, I was thinking about this as I followed the graduates from Bovine University as they kept galloping up that mountain, as they got tired, as they started looking back with their horned heads, with their horns and their bulk that could have destroyed me in an instant, but they were too dumb to even realize that. No, there was a man behind them who looked like possibly he was the farmer. And you have to respect the farmer. The same way the idiots believed in the scientists. They believed in the white coat. They believed in the poxy ties worn by the politicians. They wouldn't turn around and take the easy way down the mountain. No, they self-isolated. They didn't meet their parents. They didn't meet their grandparents. If they saw someone on the street, they crossed over in case that person could contaminate them. They lined up like livestock for the mystery juice to be put into their veins. Never for a second would they get off the road. Would they let the madness pass them by? Would they, as I say, go down the mountain? No. They wanted to be on the road. They wanted to go in the same direction as the expert. And if that meant hardship, fatigue, sickness, death, being driven off the side of a cliff, then so be it. One thing was for sure, they could not go against the expert. And they could not, even for a moment, step off that road.